Good evening. So I will be talking about the indications of SBRT, dose, prescription pattern, the BD, the risk-adapted fractionations, toxicity and constraint, our institutional experience on difficult cases, and thought for in cases of T2, T3, N1, and 2 patients who are not fit for conventional fractionation radiation or chemo radiation. So I will start with 2 cases. First, a male, which is 1940 born, smoker, diabetic, hypertensive. He was incidentally diagnosed with a solitary pulmonary nodule on a chest X-ray. It was around 15 millimeter, and he was scanned in US. So they did a low dose CT, and they gave a score of LRAD 4B. So what is 4B? It is solid nodule more than 15 millimeter, parts of solid nodule having a solid component of more than 8 millimeter, and it is there is a risk of 15% risk of malignancy in such nodules, and it is advised to undergo a PET CT. So he was advised PET CT. He came over to India, and after 2 or 3 months, he did a PET CT from the first LDCT. The PET CT showed the PET showed a speculated mass 20 into 16 millimeter, average around 18.5 millimeter with SUV max of 6.2, as you can see. So what is the probability of having a malignancy in this solitary pulmonary nodule? There are different models. One is the Mayo clinical model, which assesses the risk of malignancy in such nodules. This Mayo Clinic models take the data of age, 80 years, nodule diameter 18 millimeter. He was a smoker. There was no extrathoracic malignancy. Upper lobe location was there. Nodule was speculated, and there was a moderate uptake in SUV in PET CT. So his pretest, we call it pretest probability of having a malignancy in the nodule is 94%. So what to do? Can we directly go over and give SBRT, or are there any guidelines? So first, he was suggested a biopsy because you can see on the right side there is a large bulle. So he had multiple large emphysematous bulle in the lung. So biopsy was deemed to be too risky. So he skipped the biopsy. So there are some guidelines for empirical SBRT. One is from the Philadelphia. If there is a solitary pulmonary nodule of 8 to 13 millimeter, and if there is a pretest probability of more than 85%, then we can directly proceed for SBRT. And if it is between 65 to 85% risk of malignancy, then it is advised to do a PET CT. And if it is avid on PET CT, then we can proceed for SBRT. And if it is not avid, then a serial CT scan is advised with a volume doubling time less than 400 days, then you can proceed for SBRT. Had this case been directly undergone a low dose CT and they have given a score of 4A or 4B, then still if the PET, if it is avid on PET with the SUV max of more than 2, according to this above guidelines, then SBRT can be taken. And the different groups, they have given their different threshold for the pretest, different pretest threshold for going for empirical SBRT. One is from this American chest physician group. If the risk of malignancy is more than 65%, which they categorize as high risk, then patient can be taken for SBRT and RFA. But one thing is, like in empirical SBRT, still there is a very minor risk of having over treatment of the benign nodule. So this is the American chest physician guideline for empirical SBRT with a threshold of 65%. In most of the studies using the empirical SBRT trial, they have used a criteria of less than 3 centimeters. Biopsy either was unsuccessful or too risky. Size enlarging on the sequential CT scan with PET positivity, or if there is a ground glass opacity or nodularity of more than 10 millimeter, which is enlarging sequentially, it may be PET negative because many of the adenocarcinomas may be negative, can be taken for empirical SBRT. Now coming to the next second case, this gentleman, he is a case of known case of carcinoma prostate intermediate risk, and he did a routine PSMA PET CT scan. As you can see this, there was a 18 millimeter non-avid nodule detected. Because it is a PSMA scan, so it is looking a bit different on the fusion side. So the DDs were either it's a metastasis from the prostate or a pulmonary nodule. He was advised biopsy, but he refused. He came after 3 to 4 months when we repeated a FDG PET CT, not the PSMA PET CT. This nodule has increased in size. It was around 27 millimeter with a SUV max of 9. This was in August 2017. And there was a mediastinal node also, as you can see, station 7. So he was advised biopsy, both from the lung as well as from the mediastinal node. The lung biopsy came out to be adenocarcinoma, TTF positive, TC negative, and receptor negative. And the station 7 US report came out to be anthracosis plus granuloma. So he was started on ATT also. And then, so is 27 millimeters, so it is stage 1A lung cancer, adenocarcinoma with N0. I'm audible?
Yes, yes, continue.
Okay, okay. So this is a stage 1A, this patient. So after doing a routine workup, the metastatic evaluation has been done, mediastinal evaluation also was done, and PFE was done for this patient. So the patient then come to our OPD. So he asks us, what are the treatment options? He says, if I don't, because I am already suffering from CA prostate, although it is under control, intermediate risk, which has got a good prognosis. If I don't get treatment for this lung nodule, what are my chances of survival? This paper tells about the natural history of stage 1 lung cancer. If it is untreated, the 5-year overall survival for T1, T2, if the patient undergoes surgery, then 5-year survival of 54%. If no surgery has been given, then the patient has a 11% 5-year survival. And if there is no treatment, is 6%. Sorry, if there was no surgery, then 11%. That means non-surgical treatment. If no treatment was given, then 6% probability of survival, 5-year survival. Similarly, a meta-analysis of 15 RCTs, the pooled mean survival was 7 months. So we told him that you have to have some treatment. Since lobectomy cannot be done, and he declined, he asked any short form of surgery treatment. There are two forms. One is a wedge resection, which has been shown in studies to be much inferior, and other is an apical resection or segmentectomy. But still, they are concerned regarding as the size of the tumor increases. As you can see in this table, the control goes down. This lesion is 27 millimeter. So less than 20 millimeter segmentectomy is okay, but still there are two phase 3 randomized trials going on to compare the efficacy of our segmentectomy in less than 2 centimeter lung NSCLCs. So RFA has a 42% 5-year local control as compared to 86% in SBRT. So RFA is also inferior as it was advised, and you can see in the American Chest Physician guidelines. So what he asked me, what about conventional radiation? The local failure rate are to the tune of 70%. And dose escalation, this study in University of Michigan, they tried 102 gray, and they found there was still 34% local failure within the PTV. And this Chisel trial, many of us are aware about it, comparing SBRT versus conventional radiation. There were increased local failure and decreased survival in conventional as compared to SBRT. So in 2010, if you see the NCCN guideline for such cases who are medically inoperable or who refuses for surgery, there was definitive radiation to the dose of 60 to 70 gray conventional radiation or a limited resection. But this has now changed. Now it is in such cases T1, T2 is definitive SBRT. In case of if it is T2 and high risk features are there, and adjuvant chemotherapy after SBRT is recommended. So SBRT is a high dose of radiation delivered accurately over a very short period of time with minimal collateral damage. Multiple beams, many times non-coplanar beams are applied, and motion management in case of lung and liver are very important in SBRT. And in case of SBRT, there is a high dose within the PTV, very heterogeneous dose. This maximum dose within the PTV can be to the tune of 125 to 150%, and there is a rapid dose fall off outside the target, in contrast to the conventional radiation where there is a lot of homogeneity within the target. Dose may vary from 95 to 107%, and there is a slow dose fall off outside the target. This is in contrast to SBRT. And if this study tells about the effect of SBRT, single dose 10 to 20 gray, you can see on the left hand side is the control, right hand side is after giving the 10 or 20 gray single fraction. There is decrease in the blood perfusion, and there is decrease in the endothelial cells. Endothelial cells are marked with red, which has decreased, and the blue is the perfusion. So perfusion also goes down. So this has to be kept in mind when we are doing a SBRT daily or alternate day, because initially sometime 24 to 48 hours, there can be a hypoperfusion. So most of the trials now advised SBRT may be alternate day. So there is severe occlusion of blood vessels after last dose. So let's recap the indication of SBRT. Radiological diagnosis of early lung cancer, which is called the empirical SBRT, biopsy proven early stage NSCLC T1, T2, peripheral, medically inoperable, who refuses for surgery, and operable also. There are 3 trials going on. Few trials have, were incomplete previously. And the patient selection, central tumors and ultracentral tumors is also indication. Tumors more than 5 centimeters, T3 and T4 in view of the chest, and T3 in view of the chest wall invasion. There are some other soft indications also: gray zone multiple synchronous lung cancer, local recurrence after previous RT or surgery, not candidate for conventional fractionation or CT-RT, and boost. Central lesion within the no-fly zone is in SBRT can be given. Ultracentral, where the PTB overlaps the critical structures, SBRT can be given. And all those images which I am using here, they are our institutional images, except 1 or 2 cases. Most all the images are from our institute. And if the tumor is infiltrating the central structure, that is a big no for SBRT. Large tumors more than 5 centimeters invading the chest wall, as you can see, they are can be dealt with SBRT. As you can see on the right side, there was a tumor 5.5 centimeters. We performed SBRT. We'll share the results also. So how did this 5 centimeter came? Because we are talking about less than 5 centimeters or more than 5 centimeters. Does size really matter? And from where this 5 centimeter figure came? This is the first SBRT trial by Timmerman from Indiana University. Every radiation oncologist should know about this trial, published in Chest, 2003. This was a dose finding study. T1 tumors, T2 tumors small, and T2 tumors big. So so it was a dose finding study. They started from 24 gray in 3 fractions and went up to 72 gray in 3 fractions. So in more than 5 centimeter, that means big T2 at the time, the T2 definition was up to 7 centimeters. So big T2 had higher dose limiting toxicities, more pneumonias, and more local failure. Then the Timmerman went on to conduct the second study, where in the first study, he decided that dose 60 and 66 gray is adequate. So second study was Timmerman study where T1, T2 were taken up to 7 centimeters. The dose for T1 was 60 gray, and in T2 the dose was T2 up to 7 centimeters. The dose was 66 gray in 3 fractions, and anywhere in the lung. Those tumors may be anywhere in the lung. So these doses. So what he found, there was worse survival for the T2 lesions, especially more than 5 centimeters, and toxicity was more. And then subsequently, the Timmerman conducted the third study, which is the RTOG 0236, T1, T2, and all were less than 5 cent or equal to 5 centimeters. From previous 2 studies, we came to know that more than 5 centimeters controls are poorer and toxicity is more. So that figure of 5 came from these 2 previous studies. So further, SBRT trials have also taken the criteria as 5 centimeters. And even in Japanese studies, multicentric studies or multi-institutional retrospective studies, the mean tumor diameter was around 3 centimeters, mostly were less than 5 centimeters. So is there any data on more than 5 centimeters or 5 centimeters we should not do the SBRT? This is the paper by Vikram Verma, where he analyzed from multiple institutes the more than 5 centimeters tumor undergoing the SBRT. He found most common pattern of failure in more than 5 centimeters is systemic and regional, not the local recurrence. And the systemic and the regional recurrences come on a median time of around 8 months, whereas the local recurrence rate was 16%, which came at around 21 months. And the grade 3 toxicity was not too high, it was 5%. Then came this paper published in Red Journal, where they have given in more than 5 centimeters, they have given a dose of 50 gray in 5 fractions and 60 gray in 8 fractions. The local control was 18 months local control was very good, 91%. So SBRT in the patient population more than 5 centimeter is less well studied, you can say, and there are limited data on this, but it is not that it will not work there. One important reason is there is relative infrequency of patients having more than 5 centimeter tumor with a clinically N0 or N0 mediastinum. So there are limited trials, limited patients, so data is not sufficient, but we have to accept that there's slightly larger volume is irradiated, so the toxicity might be slightly higher, and the treatment failure may be more than as compared to the T1 tumors or small T1s. But ASTRO conditionally recommends in the, because there is no sufficient evidence, but it advises that SBRT can be given for more than 5 centimeter tumor, keeping in mind there may be more local regional recurrences or systemic recurrences, but it works for more than 5 centimeters, which we have also seen. As I showed, this is a tumor. This patient had 5.5 centimeter tumor. This was the pre-SBRT, and on right side, this is around 3 to 4 months post SBRT. The first is 20th of April, as you can see in the dates, 2017, and in July 2022, July 2017, you can see complete removal of the tumor. If I see the lung window, there was some haziness, but in the soft tissue window, no tumor was seen. PET was also clear. Is there any contraindication for SBRT? The e-stroke consensus guidelines were published in Green Journal, and most of the institutes, they agree that there is no absolute contraindication for lung SBRT in terms of age, comorbidity index, GOLD classification of COPD, and pretreatment pulmonary functions. But they agree that for taking a patient for SBRT, it should have a minimum ECOG performance score of at least 3 and a minimum life expectancy of 6 months to 1 year. And no SBRT should be tried with the standard doses in case of infiltration of the central structures. One other relative contraindication is interstitial lung disease. As you can see in the graph, in presence of interstitial lung disease, the rate of grade 2 and above pneumonitis are to the tune of 44%, where normally it is around 4%. And there is a predictor that is called KL6, Kerb Van den Lung protein, which is a glycoprotein secreted by the lung due to the injury. It is a predictor of radiation pneumonitis after SBRT in ILD. And the Japanese, they normally follow this. If the patient is having ILD and if the pre-treatment KL6 levels are more than 600 per ml, then they avoid doing the SBRT. And so now the patient will be scanned for treatment, simulation scan, but we should know the movements. As you can see on the right hand side, these are the fused images in the inspiration and expiration of the same patient, which is having a tumor in the upper lobe. There is wide variation of the movement in the lower lobe from 15 millimeter to 14 millimeter in normal respiration, whereas the movement in the upper lobes are too low. There are different management strategies, which I will not be going in details, like abdominal compression, gating, tracking, like we do in CyberKnife, and breath control using a DIBH ABC. So once the patient is scanned, we do a contouring in the lung window. The lung window values, we should remember 1600 and minus 600 window width and window level. Towards the lung parenchyma side, we should use the lung window, and when it is going towards the mediastinum or chest wall, then we should use the soft tissue window or mediastinal window. And we should also include the spicules, as you can see on the right hand side. In the left hand side, if you have used the lower right, lower left, if we have used the lung window, mediastinal window, we will miss the scrupule. So we should always use the lung window. And toward the soft tissue, which is adhering on the chest wall, we should use a soft tissue window, not the lung window as shown here in this diagram. So what about the CTV? Is there any CTV concept in SBRT? Yes, there is, but it doesn't, if you're not taking, it doesn't mean there is no microscopic spread. There is microscopic spread. In this paper published in Green Journal, a systematic review by Soren Benzen, they have suggested that dose to the non-target tissue immediately adjacent to the PTV, which would be a potential area of microscopic spread in the conventional radiation, it receives a sufficiently high dose in the SBRT. So which may be sufficient to for the microscopic kill of the disease. So lower doses may be needed for microscopic disease, which the patient gets in case of SBRT. As we did in one of the patient, I have created a 5 millimeter ring outside the PTV. And this patient was giving a prescription of 54 grains to the PTV at 76% isodose. And when we calculated the average median dose, the mean dose in the 5 millimeter ring outside PTV, it was 125 BD. BD is sufficient for is more than sufficient for the microscopic spread, as stated in the previous paper published in Green Journal. So PTV normally people take from 3 to 8 millimeters. It should be institutional data. We take around roughly 5 millimeter radially and 5 to 7 millimeter craniocaudally, depending upon whether we are treating on CyberKnife or on ABC. In CyberKnife, we take slightly lesser PTV. They are PET-based auto segmentation, but is not used normally in case of SBRT. A manual based with the PET is better. When we do a suppression CT, we should always take at least a thin sections CT very clear. On the left hand side is a normal a 3 millimeter thickness CT. We should know about the detailed anatomy of bronchopulmonary segments, because this is important in contouring for the bronchial tree. Now coming on to the dose part, the dose prescription pattern. What are the different ways of prescribing the dose in case of SBRT? The first is the isocenter prescription. The isocenter prescription is the dose is prescribed to the PTV isocenter. This is most commonly followed in Japanese studies, but now gradually they are shifting over to the other way. For example, the most common and most favorite of Japanese 48 gray in 4 fractions, a BD of around 105. So as you can see in this paper published by Nagata and Red Journal, the BD of Japanese studies 48 in 4 is equal to a peripheral dose of 42 gray. Peripheral, that means the edge of the PTV dose 42 gray in 4 fractions. So 48 in 4 to the isocenter is equal to 42 in 4 in the periphery in the isodose terms. As you can see in this diagram, the isocenter will receive 48 gray and the edge of the PTV 42 gray. So you can see the Dmax is 48 gray, which is in the isocenter in the center part, and the edge of the PTV receiving 42 gray. So it is 87% isodose prescription. 87% isodose, that means less heterogeneous. So the Japanese prescriptions were less heterogeneous, and the European and American were more heterogeneous. So below I have written, I have done a calculation 45 gray, for example, just to compare a 45 gray in conventional fractionation, where we will accept a hot spot of 107 and a cold spot of 93 or 95%, 48 to 41. So it is, just to say, it is bit similar to the conventional fractionation, where there is a much less heterogeneity as compared to the American and European style of prescription. So now the Japanese are switching over from the isocenter prescription to isodose prescription, and even now they believe the dose is insufficient, because you can see on the right hand side there is a phase 3 trial in T1 stage 1A lung cancer comparing two dose fractions, 42 gray in 4 fractions to the isodose versus 55 gray in 4 fractions to the isodose. So we can see now the rating for not 48 in 14 versus 55 in 4. So dose escalation plus prescription. This is now what is isodose prescription. The second pattern is isodose prescription. It is the isodose which is covering the edge of the PTV. For example, in this diagram below, this is the PTV. The edge of the PTV is getting 42 gray, and the hottest point in PTV, for example, we want to give a 40 gray minimum dose or peripheral dose to the PTV. So for 2 gray will be respective dose. Hello, Deepak, I am audible.
Your voice is breaking in between.
Just give me 2 minutes. I'll switch over my connection, network connection.
No issues. In the meanwhile, Dr. Sham is switching to his network. There is some network issue. So we'd like to announce our next masterclass on 17th of March by Dr. Judith Boda, and he is from the professor from University of Mannheim. So he will be speaking on SBRT, role of SBRT in liver tumors. Dr. Sham, have you changed your network?
Yes, just. Now, can you see my screen?
You can go to full screen.
Yes, now.
Okay. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So the second type of prescription was the isodose prescription. So I was telling that if you want 42 gray to this PTV, edge will, and we decide the edge is going to receive 42 gray. So how much hotness we want inside the target? If you want the Dmax within the target to be 125% of the our prescription dose, that means a 52.5 gray, we want the hottest point inside the target. So it will be uh, so that means the 52.5 gray we assume to be 100%, and the 42 gray will become, if we do by the calculation, the 42 gray will become a 80% acidose. So we will call this as a 42 gray prescription at 80% acidose, and the 100% is our Dmax. That means if we have normalized to the Dmax. The Dmax is 52.5 gray. So the 52.5 gray is 125% hotter than the our prescription, that is 42 gray. So similarly, if you want the Dmax target to be 48 gray, that means 114% hotter than the 42 gray. So our prescription become a 42 gray at 87.5% isodose. So we see that decreasing the isodose percent will increase the hotness inside the tumor, increase the mean dose of the tumor. That is important for killing the hypoxic cells in the core. The same thing explained in this diagram. So the effect of prescription dose, so the one patient, the chest wall tumor, as I showed previously in our cases. So we have prescribed 60 gray in 5 fractions at 75% isodose in the above diagram, and in the lower diagram at 90% isodose, just for comparison. In both the case, the GTB was receiving 100% of the dose. We have prescribed at GTB, just to show. So you can see when we are prescribing a 75% isodose, the GTV mean dose in the GTV is coming out to be 72 gray, and Dmax within the GTV is coming out to be 79 gray in 5 fractions. Whereas in the 90% isodose scenario, the GTV mean dose was 63 gray and Dmax within the GTV was 67 gray. So it is less hotter as compared to the above lower isodose. So I will skip this. So the ESTRO guidelines regarding the prescription pattern says should most frequently be prescribed PTV encompassing the isodose line or 99 to 95% of the PTV value. And there should be inhomogeneity of dose within the PTV, which is recommended by them. The ICRE report 91 on the SBRT, it says the volumetric plus the isodose approach. That means dose is prescribed to an isodose surface, which should cover the optimal